The unwanted gift, the morning rain, fell steadily on New Geneva's dome, creating patterns of light and shadow that danced across Dr. Marcus Chen's laboratory floor. He stood before his latest experiment, watching microscopic organisms adapt to hostile environments in real time. After 15 years of research under Corothan rule, he had finally achieved what many thought impossible. His terraforming bacteria could transform dead worlds into livable colonies in just decades instead of centuries. The soft chime of his communication device interrupted his concentration. Marcus glanced at the display and felt his stomach tighten. Governor Lex wanted to see him immediately. The Corothan administrator rarely called unless something significant was happening. And in Marcus's experience, significant usually meant dangerous. The walk to the administrative sector took him through the heart of New Geneva's colonial district. Humans hurried past with their heads down, avoiding eye contact with the Corothan guards who patrolled every street corner. Children played quietly in designated areas, their laughter subdued by the constant presence of their alien overseers. Marcus had grown up on this world, watching it transform from a vibrant human settlement into a carefully controlled laboratory for the Empire's expansion programs. Dex's office occupied the top floor of the administration building, its walls made of transparent aluminum that provided a commanding view of the entire colony. The Corothan administrator was an imposing figure, standing nearly 8 feet tall with 4 arms and skin that shifted color with his moods. Today, it was a deep purple, which Marcus had learned indicated satisfaction mixed with anticipation. Dr. Chun, Dex rumbled, his translator converting the complex clicks and whistles of his native language into accented standard. Your recent breakthrough has created quite an impression in the Imperial Science Council. Your terraforming bacteria exceeded all expectations in the test environment. Marcus nodded carefully. Thank you, Governor. The applications for planetary development could be significant. Indeed. Dex moved to his desk, where a sealed container rested beside his usual collection of bureaucratic devices. The Empire rewards excellence, Doctor. Your work has earned you promotion to Senior Research Director, along with the privileges that accompany such a position. The promotion should have been good news. Senior Research Directors receive better housing, increased food rations, and more freedom to pursue their research interests. But something in Nex's manner suggested this conversation had additional layers that Marcus wasn't going to like. Honored by the confidence the Empire has shown in my work, Marcus said, keeping his voice neutral. Your new position comes with certain expectations. Nex continued, opening the sealed container. Inside lay an ornate collar made of some crystalline material that pulsed with soft light. You will be provided with a breeding companion to ensure the continuation of your valuable genetic line. The offspring will be raised in Imperial facilities and trained according to their hybrid capabilities. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. He had heard rumors about the Empire's breeding programs, whispered stories of captured beings from conquered worlds forced into reproductive slavery. The idea that he was expected to participate in such a system made him feel physically ill. Sir, I appreciate the honor, but I don't think I'm ready for such responsibility. The decision has been made. Vex interrupted, his skin shifting to an angry orange. Your companion arrives this afternoon. Her name is Liana, and she comes from the Ethereum system we recently incorporated into the Empire. The genetic compatibility testing shows a high probability of successful reproduction. Before Marcus could respond, Dex activated another device on his desk. Bring her in. The door opened and 2 Corothan guards entered, escorting a woman who took Marcus's breath away. She was tall and graceful, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. Her hair was silver white, flowing like water down her back, and her eyes were the deep green of an earth forest. Despite the simple gray clothing she wore and the restraint collar around her neck, she carried herself with unmistakable dignity. This is Liana Starweaver, Vex announced. She has been genetically tested and deemed suitable for breeding purposes. The collar will ensure compliance with your requirements. Marcus looked into Liana's eyes and saw intelligence burning there. along with carefully controlled fear and anger. This wasn't just another conquered being reduced to slavery. This was someone's daughter, perhaps someone's sister, being treated like livestock. I understand her people were educators before the incorporation, Bex continued casually. She was apparently some kind of teacher or healer. Such skills are irrelevant now, of course, but the genetic markers that produce high intelligence are desirable for breeding purposes. The casual dismissal of Liana's life and accomplishments made Marcus's hands clench into fists. He forced himself to remain calm, knowing that any sign of resistance would make things worse for both of them. Dr. Chun will escort you to your new quarters, Bex told Liana, though she hadn't spoken a word since entering the room. Your breeding schedule will begin immediately. I expect the first pregnancy confirmation within 3 months. The walk to Marcus's expanded quarters was conducted in silence. The new accommodations were indeed larger than his previous space, with a separate sleeping area that he assumed was intended for Liana. She followed him inside and stood quietly while he activated the privacy screens, checking carefully for surveillance devices before he felt safe enough to speak freely. Can you understand me without the translator? He asked quietly. Yes, she replied, her voice melodic despite the tension in it. My people learned many languages through trade and cultural exchange before the Empire came. Marcus sat down across from her, trying to project calm reassurance. I want you to know that I won't follow their breeding protocols. I won't force you to do anything you don't want to do. Liana studied his face for a long moment, as if trying to determine whether he was sincere or simply playing a more sophisticated game of manipulation. Why would you refuse such a reward? Most Imperial citizens would consider me a valuable prize. Because you're not a prize, Marcus said firmly. You're a person with your own thoughts, feelings, and dignity. What they're asking me to do is wrong, and I won't be part of it. For the first time since she'd entered the governor's office, Liana's careful mask slipped slightly. You realize they will monitor us. If you fail to produce children according to their schedule, both of us will face severe consequences. I know, but I also know people who might be able to help us find alternatives to those consequences. That evening, Marcus met Captain Sarah Martinez at a small cafe in the colony's industrial district. Sarah commanded a freight hauler that made regular runs between New Geneva and other worlds in the sector. But Marcus had long suspected her real profession involved activities that the Empire would not approve of. You look terrible, Sarah observed as she slid into the booth across from him. What's wrong? Marcus explained his situation in careful, quiet words, watching Sarah's expression grow darker with each detail. When he finished, she sat in silence for several minutes, absently stirring her coffee while she processed the information. The Resistance has protocols for situations like this, she finally said. We can get both of you off-world, but it won't be easy. Once the Empire realizes she's missing, they'll tear apart every system within 100 light years looking for you. What are the alternatives? You could comply with their demands while secretly using contraceptives to prevent pregnancy. Buy us time to develop a longer-term solution. Marcus shook his head. I won't ask her to endure that kind of violation, even if it's supposed to be temporary. There has to be another way. Sarah studied his face in the dim light. You're falling? For her, aren't you? The question caught Marcus off guard. He had been so focused on the moral implications of the situation that he hadn't examined his own feelings. But there was something about Liana's strength and intelligence that drew him in ways he hadn't expected. It doesn't matter what I'm feeling, he said finally. What matters is getting her to safety. It matters more than you think, Sarah replied. If this is just about doing the right thing, we can probably get her to a safe world where she can start over. But if there's more to it than that, if you're both willing to face the risks together, then we might be able to do something bigger. Over the next week, Marcus learned more about Liana's life before the conquest. She had been a healer and teacher on Ether Prime, working with children who had been born with genetic conditions that made them different from the mainstream population. Her people had developed sophisticated biotechnology that could adapt to individual needs, helping everyone contribute to society regardless of their physical limitations. We believe that diversity made us stronger, she explained one evening as they shared a simple meal. Every person had unique gifts that could benefit the whole community. That's beautiful, Marcus said. What happened to your family? Liana's expression darkened. My parents died in the orbital bombardment. My younger brother was taken to the indoctrination centers. I don't know if he's still alive, or if he even remembers who he was. The pain in her voice made Marcus's chest tighten. I'm sorry. I can't imagine what that must be like. The Empire is very efficient at breaking families apart, she said quietly. They know that isolated individuals are easier to control than people with strong community bonds. That night, as Marcus lay in his bed listening to Liana's soft breathing from the adjoining room, he made a decision that would change both their lives forever. He wasn't just going to help her escape. He was going to find a way to build something new, something that honored her people's values while utilizing his scientific knowledge to create a place where all beings could live with dignity. The next morning brought an unwelcome surprise. Governor Lex's medical staff arrived to conduct the first breeding assessment, expecting to find evidence that Marcus and Liana had begun following the prescribed protocols. When their tests showed no indication of reproductive activity, the lead technician reported directly to the governor. Within an hour, Marcus received a communication ordering both him and Liana to report to the administrative building immediately. As they walked through the colony streets, Marcus could see additional security forces taking positions at key intersections. Their window of opportunity was closing rapidly. Whatever happens, he told Liana quietly, remember that you have value beyond what they want to use you for. You're intelligent, kind, and strong. Don't let them convince you otherwise. She squeezed his hand briefly. And you remember that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to do what's right despite being afraid. Governor Lex was waiting for them in his office, his skin a deep red that indicated serious anger. Two security officers flanked his desk, their weapons clearly visible. Dr. Chen, Lex began, his voice carrying a dangerous edge. The medical reports indicate that you have failed to fulfill your breeding obligations. This is disappointing and frankly suspicious. Sir, we've only been paired for a week. Please. Things take time. Time we do not have, Lex interrupted. The Empire has invested significant resources in this pairing, and we expect to see results. You will report to the medical facility tomorrow for fertility enhancement treatments. Both of you. Marcus felt his heart racing. The fertility treatments were basically chemical coercion, flooding their systems with hormones that would make resistance nearly impossible. It was a line he absolutely would not cross. Governor, I request additional time to develop a natural relationship with my companion. Forced procedures might damage the genetic quality of any offspring. Dex studied him for a long moment, his skin slowly shifting from red to orange. You have 3 more days, Doctor. If the next medical assessment shows no progress, we will implement more direct methods. Dismissed. As they left the administrative building, Marcus caught sight of Sarah Martinez near the transportation hub. She gave him a subtle hand signal that meant the escape plan was ready to implement. They had less than 72 hours to get off. New Geneva before the Empire's patience ran out completely. That evening, as they prepared for what might be their last night on the colony world, Liana shared something that gave Marcus hope for their future together. On Etheria, we had a saying, she told him. The strongest trees grow in the harshest soil. Perhaps we were brought together not by accident, but because we both needed to become stronger than we ever thought possible. Marcus looked into her green eyes and saw not just intelligence and courage, but the possibility of building beautiful together despite the darkness surrounding them. Tomorrow they would begin a journey that would test every limit of their strength and determination. But tonight, for the first time since this nightmare began, he felt genuinely hopeful about their chances. The rain continued to fall on New Geneva's dome, but Marcus no longer saw it as a prison. Soon, very soon, they would be free to find their own sky. The price of freedom, the pre-dawn hours of New Geneva, were always the quietest. When even the Corothan guards relaxed their vigilance slightly, Marcus and Liana moved through the maintenance tunnels beneath the colony, following the route Sarah Martinez had provided. Each step took them further from the relative safety of Marcus's quarters and closer to either freedom or capture. "The transport leaves in 20 minutes, Marcus whispered. As they approached the cargo loading dock, "Once we're aboard Sarah's ship, we'll have about 6 hours before they realize you're missing from the morning medical check." Liana nodded, clutching the small bag containing the few personal items Marcus had been able to gather for her. Among them was a data crystal containing her people's genetic research, something she had managed to hide during her initial capture. If they could reach the Outer Rim territories, that information might help establish medical facilities for other Etherean refugees. Sarah's freight hauler, the distant thunder, sat among a dozen other vessels in the departure bay. To any casual observer, it looked like a standard cargo ship making routine supply runs between colony worlds. Only someone with very detailed knowledge would notice the additional shielding around the engine compartment or the modifications to the sensor array that allowed the ship to avoid detection by Imperial patrol vessels. "Right on time," Sarah said, as they approached the loading ramp. "We've got you registered as technical consultants for the mining operation on Kepler Station. Should get you through the first few checkpoints without problems." As they boarded the ship, Marcus felt a mixture of relief and terror. They had successfully gotten off New Geneva, but he knew their real challenges were just beginning. The Empire didn't tolerate the loss of valuable assets, and Liana represented both genetic, material, and symbolic importance to their breeding programs. The first indication of trouble came 3 hours into their journey. Sarah's communication. Officer reported unusual chatter on Imperial security frequencies, suggesting that Liana's absence had been discovered earlier than expected. "They're mobilizing patrol squadrons," the officer announced grimly. "Someone must have run in early." "Check on your quarters." Sarah cursed under her breath. "How long until they can organize a proper search pattern?" "Maybe 2 hours. They'll start with the most likely escape routes." Marcus studied the navigation display, trying to calculate their options. "What about the Vega system?" "It's off the main trade routes, and the asteroid fields would provide cover. That's where everyone runs," Sarah replied. "It's also where they catch most people. We need somewhere they won't think to look." Liana had been quiet during most of the journey, but now she spoke up. "What about the Helix Nebula? My people used to trade with independent miners in that region. The radiation interference would mask our sensor signature." Sarah looked at her with new respect. "That's actually brilliant. It's dangerous as hell, but they'd never expect us to head into that radiation storm." The course change bought them precious time, but it also revealed the true scope of the Empire's response. Long-range sensors showed Imperial vessels spreading out across multiple sectors, conducting systematic searches of every possible hiding place. This wasn't just about recovering one escaped breeding specimen. This was about sending a message that resistance would not be tolerated. "There," Sarah said, pointing to a blip on the sensor display. "Mining station Delta 7. The owner is sympathetic to our cause, and he's got facilities that can mask our presence for a few days." Delta 7 turned out to be a collection of interconnected asteroids that had been hollowed out and converted into living space. The station's owner, a gruff human named Tom Briggs, had been fighting the Empire's expansion for decades through carefully orchestrated acts of sabotage and smuggling operations. "Doc Chun," Tom said as they disembarked, "Sarah's told me about your situation. We'll keep you safe here, but I need to be honest about something. The Empire's put out a bounty that's got every hunter in the sector interested in finding you two." Marcus felt his heart sink. "How much?" 50,000 credits. "For the woman, 20,000 for you?" That's enough to make even honest people start thinking dishonest thoughts. They were given quarters in the asteroid's intersection, where the natural rock provided additional shielding from sensors. For the first time in days, Marcus and Liana could relax enough to have a real conversation about their future. I've been thinking about what you said earlier, Marcus began, about finding a place where we can build something new. Liana curled up in the chair across from him, her silver hair catching the soft, artificial light. Tell me what you're imagining. Your people's biotechnology combined with human terraforming techniques. We could create settlements where different species work together, where everyone contributes according to their abilities rather than their genetic classification. The Empire would never allow such a place to exist. Not in an imperial space. Marcus agreed. But there are regions beyond their current borders, worlds that are considered too dangerous or too remote to bother with. If we could establish a foothold in one of those areas, prove that our approach works, maybe other people would join us. Liana's eyes lit up with excitement. A place where my brother could be free, if we could find him. Where children could grow up learning about cooperation instead of domination. Their planning was interrupted by urgent chiming from the station's alarm system. Tom's voice echoed through the corridors. All residents to secure positions. We have Imperial ships approaching. Through the observation window in their quarters, Marcus could see 3 Corythan destroyers moving slowly through the asteroid field. Their sensors were conducting intensive sweeps, looking for any sign of the fugitives they were hunting. They can't scan through the rock, Liana said, though her voice betrayed her nervousness. No, but they can detect power signatures, heat sources, anything that indicates habitation, Marcus replied. Tom's probably shutting down all non-essential systems. The destroyer spent 6 agonizing hours systematically searching the asteroid field. At one point, a boarding party actually docked with Delta 7, conducting a routine inspection that everyone knew was focused on finding Marcus and Liana. Tom's people managed to hide them in a sealed mining shaft during the search. But the experience left both fugitives shaken. This can't continue, Liana said after the Imperial ships had finally departed. Every place we go, we put other people at risk. Eventually, someone will decide that the bounty money is worth more than their principles. Marcus knew she was. Right, but he wasn't ready to give up on their dream of freedom. There has to be a solution. Something we haven't thought of yet. The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a former Imperial scientist who had joined the Resistance after witnessing the Empire's genetic experiments firsthand, contacted them through encrypted channels. I've been following your situation, she explained via secured transmission. Your terraforming research and Liana's genetic data could be the key to something much bigger than just personal freedom. Elena's proposal was audacious and dangerous. She had discovered the location of a hidden Imperial research facility where they conducted their most sensitive breeding experiments. If they could infiltrate the facility and release the data they found there, it would provide evidence of the Empire's crimes that could spark resistance movements across the galaxy. The facility is on Erebus Prime, Elena continued. It's heavily guarded, but your scientific credentials could get you inside if we can create the right cover story. Sarah looked skeptical. That sounds like suicide. Why would they want to walk into the most secure installation in the sector? Because, Marcus said slowly, understanding beginning to dawn on his face. If we can expose what the Empire is really doing, it won't matter how many bounty hunters are looking for us. The political cost of continuing the breeding programs might become too high. Liana studied the facility schematics that Elena had provided. My people's biotechnology includes memory storage techniques. If I could access their central database, I could download everything and store it in a way that would be impossible to detect or destroy. The plan they developed was complex and relied on multiple layers of deception. Marcus would present himself to the facility administrators as a defector, claiming that Liana had escaped and offering his services to help recapture her. Once inside, he would disable the security systems, while Liana, disguised as a lab technician, downloaded the research data. If this goes wrong, Sarah warned them. There won't be any rescue mission. You'll be on your own. We understand, Marcus replied, but this is bigger than just our freedom. If we can succeed, it might change things for millions of people. The approach to Erebus Prime was terrifying. The planet was surrounded by defensive platforms and patrol ships, each one capable of destroying their small vessel in seconds. But Marcus's credentials and carefully rehearsed story got them through the outer perimeter. Commander Zek, the facility's security chief, was suspicious from the moment they arrived. The massive Corothan officer questioned Marcus extensively. About Liana's escape and his decision to help recapture her? You claim that emotional attachment clouded your judgment, Zek said, his skin cycling through colors that indicated deep suspicion. Yet now you wish to help us improve our breeding protocols. This seems contradictory. I have had time to consider the larger implications of my actions, Marcus replied, fighting to keep his voice steady. Personal feelings cannot be allowed to interfere with the Empire's goals. Meanwhile, Liana had successfully infiltrated the facility's lower levels, using forged identification to access areas where the most sensitive research was conducted. What she found there exceeded even their worst expectations. The Empire wasn't just forcing captured beings to produce hybrid offspring. They were conducting systematic genetic manipulation, trying to create super soldiers and specialized workers tailored for specific tasks. Thousands of beings from dozens of species were being held in conditions that made slavery look humane by comparison. Marcus, she whispered into her concealed communicator, we have to get this information out. People need to know what's happening here. But their plan began to unravel when a routine security sweep detected anomalies in the facility's computer system. Commander Zek immediately ordered a lockdown, trapping both Marcus and Liana inside the installation. Dr. Chen, Zek announced over the facility's communication system. Your companion has been detected in Section C. You will report to security immediately, or we will assume you are collaborating with her infiltration attempt. Marcus knew their deception was over. Racing through the facility's corridors, he found Liana in the central data core, still downloading files despite alarms blaring all around them. How much more do you need? He asked urgently. 2 more minutes. But the security forces are surrounding this area. Marcus looked at the data transfer display, then at the facility schematics. There was one chance, but it would require a sacrifice that made his heart ache. When the download is complete, take the emergency transport tube to the landing bay, he told her. Sarah's people will be waiting with an extraction ship. What about you? I'm going to cause a distraction that will give you time to escape. Liana grabbed his arm. We said we'd face this together. And we have? But now one of us needs to survive to make sure this information reaches the people who can use it. Your genetic memory storage will preserve everything, even if the data crystals are destroyed. Before she could argue further, Marcus sealed the data core door and headed for the facility's main power systems. His terraforming bacteria, properly modified, could cause a cascade failure that would disable the entire installation without killing anyone. It would also trap him inside while Liana escaped. The explosion that rocked Erebus Prime could be felt across the entire planet. Emergency systems activated throughout the facility as Marcus's modified bacteria began consuming the power grids. Bioneural components. In the chaos that followed, a small transport ship carrying Liana and the stolen research data managed to escape the planet's atmosphere. Commander Zek found Marcus in the wreckage of the power control center, badly injured, but still alive. You have caused significant damage to Imperial property, the security chief snarled. Why? Because, Marcus said through gritted teeth, some things are worth more than personal safety. Dignity, freedom, the right to choose your own path in life. 6 months later, the data that Liana had stolen from Erebus Prime had been distributed throughout the galaxy. Resistance movements on dozens of worlds used the evidence of Imperial genetic crimes to justify their rebellions. Public opinion, even in core Imperial systems, began to turn against the breeding programs. Liana had established a small settlement on a remote world beyond Imperial borders. Using the combination of human terraforming technology and ether and biotechnology to create a thriving community. Former slaves, resistance fighters, and refugees from imperial oppression had joined her, building the kind of society she and Marcus had dreamed of. Marcus himself had been sentenced to life imprisonment on a maximum security world, but his sacrifice had not been forgotten. Rescue missions were being planned, and every day brought new reports of Imperial facilities being shut down due to public pressure. He gave us the chance to build something beautiful, Liana told the newest group of refugees as they asterisk